let us continue. Wow. Where did I put those questions? Here. Open. Where did I leave off? Oh yeah, stock and circle. What is the amino acid sequence for hemoglobin? It's this. Not that I understand it, but that's what it is. Question 4. How many moons does the Earth have? Just the one. The one moon. It's called Luna, but we usually just call it the moon because we only have the one. It's in the sky. It's pretty big. What book, if any, are you currently reading? None right now. Of course, I've got the usual bathroom reading material, but I'm not reading anything right now. The last book I did read, I think, was the latest book in the Tale of Fire and Ice series. Feast for Crows, I think it's called. But the next book in the series isn't out yet, so I'm not reading it. Anti-Sisyphus. Pretty good. Where in America is the Lone Star State? That's Texas, and it's right there. Lone Star. They've actually used that Lone Star thing since before they were part of the Union. It used to be part of Mexico at one time. Then there was this whole, like, rebellion thing. They eventually became part of the Union in the 1800s. I live up here in Michigan, surrounded by freshwater seas and fairly close to Canada. Not anywhere near to Texas, just if you're curious. What is the longest river in Scotland? It's either the, if I'm pronouncing this right, the Tay or the Spey. I think that's right. Depending on who you ask, there's a loch and some saltwater estuary that's in question, and whether or not that's included, that makes one the longest river or the other, and I'm not sure which. But, you know, I'm not an expert on rivers in Scotland. In Greek mythology, who is the only mortal Gorgon? I watched this movie, Clash of the Titans. This was Medusa, probably the most famous Gorgon, right? Perseus killed Medusa and then dragged her head around, you know, because it was useful to turn people into stone. What type of creature is a fulmar? Fulmer. It's a bird. Looks like a gull, but it's not a gull. But it looks like a gull, but it's not a gull. Of which planet is Phoebe a satellite? I like how you used satellite instead of moon because it's a bit odd for a moon. It's actually thought to be a captured Kuiper Belt object, and if it crossed more closely to the sun, it would actually be have a comet tail because it's got a lot of ice on it. But Phoebe is a satellite of Saturn, or is it Jupiter? No, I think it's Saturn. Saturn. Who wrote the opera La Boheme? What was his last name? Cini. Of course, Cini. Puccini? Mancini? Damn it, I forget his name. I'm not an opera expert. My goodness. Michael RFP. This may be a little different, but wanted to know, what do you think about the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad? He's probably really similar to George W. Bush in personality, in effect, because I think he's a really polarizing but charismatic type of leader who thinks he's really doing the right thing, who really believes that he's doing the right thing. So what does he want? He wants, like, respect for Iran as a nation. He wants respect for the Iranian people. But unlike George W. Bush, I think he's from a poor family, and he's kind of a self-made man, and he's not like a career politician. We'll see how this election thing pans out in Iran. It's getting kind of interesting. Instead of having peaceful protests, you know, they decide to burn stuff. yeah, we'll see how this pans out. But chances are, I think it's going to be officiated, and he's going to say he's been reelected, even though there's a lot of people that said that there's been some errors, but we'll see. Dr. Sickenstein, 666. Another 666. If vegetarians eat vegetables, then what do humanitarians eat? This is a logical fallacy called a category fallacy. The term humanitarian has no qualifications for diet. They don't necessarily eat humans. Sorry. LDN Leon. Damn it. What sort of books do you read, if any? Well, I'm a big fantasy and science fiction fan, but I find that I watch more science fiction and read more fantasy. That just happens to be that way. What are some of your favorite TV shows and films? Basically anything Star Trek, including Enterprise, which I think is underappreciated. That's one of my. It's second favorite. I like The Next Generation the best, but definitely Enterprise is a very close second for favorite Star Trek series. Well, I like Wall-E is actually one of my favorite movies. It deals with several issues, accidentally about consumerism and protecting the environment, but more importantly about the manifestation of personality through error and the humanity of something that's not human. And they do an excellent job of lending personality to something without a real voice, without any words. There's no real dialogue in a good portion of the film, and yet they get the ideas across with beeps and boops and animation. It's fantastically done. But as far as other films, I mean, I'm a big fan of the last Star Trek film. I liked the Terminator movie. Marcus was a very interesting character. Made John Connor look real flat and kind of boring in comparison. I'm a big fan of the Underworld films. I'm a geek like that. That's all I can think of at the moment. You sound Jewish. Yes? Do I sound Jewish? Well, that's what I get for growing up in a largely Jewish area. But yeah, raised in a Jewish family. I don't actually have any real Jewish ancestry because I have adoptions on both sides. I've never met my father's side of the family, but they were British and French with a surname Johnson. The Johnson clan's apparently right on the border of Britain and Scotland. I think I got that right. That's where the clan is from. And they were they Catholic or Protestant? I don't even know. Some form of Christian. And on the other side, Hungarian and German immigrants, and they were Protestant as well, I think. So yeah, no real Jewish ancestry, but my accent's usually just described as being a Great Lakes area or Midwest type accent. Maybe I have an unusual speech pattern because I had a stuttering problem as a kid, and I went through speech therapy to get rid of my stuttering problem. So sometimes I'll slow down and enunciate things deliberately to prevent stuttering or tripping over my own words. That might make me sound Jewish, maybe? I don't know. MJ Havoc. How commonly known is it by the American public that a CIA coup d'etat effectively ended democratic rule in Iran in 1953? Anybody who is knowledgeable about what America did during the Cold War era knows about this. Anybody who lived through that era knows about this. My generation and younger, probably not up to speed, but with some investigation, they can get this information too. Like a lot of things, it's not something that we should be very proud of. It's something we should be very ashamed of. And I think that, especially with the new president and my generation taking a more active role in the politics of the country, that we will hopefully more effectively and more honorably deal with Iran, right? And fess up to a lot of the mistakes that our country, before we were born, made, and that we can shamelessly start to fix things in the area. Hopefully.